with coffee. What do you think is the hardest part?
Hmm. Like, so the Web3 side of things?
Anything. What do you think has been like the hardest part of running?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's good to see you. It was good to see you at Breakpoint. Always good seeing your face. So
Yeah,
can't
man,
complain.
dude, excited to kind of run it back. I know from Breakpoint till today, a lot of exciting news has come out, especially even the breaking news of Miami around the corner, the Seeker phone having lots and lots of success on Solana. People are flocking there. And look, man, building the Web3 coffee shop leadership, everything that you got going on. I'm here to ask you the tough questions of, hey, how do you keep building this? Like, how do you keep seeing, the big boys, Starbucks, Tim Horton, all these guys, something that you have such a competitive edge here, and that's the Web3 elements of being able to have on-chain things that could allow a deeper experience with the customer, but even a deeper experience to loyalty. And I think we know loyalty is huge within the bigger boy coffee companies. So really excited to kind of deep dive a little bit further from our first conversation. I got an icebreaker question that I gotta ask first, though, is what do you think is
Yeah.
the hardest part about running a coffee company that has nothing to do with coffee? What do you think is the hardest part?
Hmm. Like, so the Web3 side of things?
Anything. What do you think has been like the hardest part of running a coffee company that has nothing that part has nothing to do with coffee?
Um, Man, I think at least the early days, I'd say like finding the right team that believes in the vision and being able to trust those people. Because I was always such a perfectionist, and I feel like it's not exclusive to what we're doing, right? This applies to any kind of startup, but um, I've been kind of a perfectionist in creative design, you name it, and being able to trust the people around you, relinquish that control, I think was probably the hardest thing for me. But like we've come so far since then that like the Raposa team is a legitimate family. Like treats, Gabriel, our marketing, our CMO, our intern, like they're family, they're brothers and sisters. So um, yeah, I think like that plus like the combination of kind of what we'll probably dive into is like how to utilize Web3 in a way that will elevate Raposa as a brand on a worldwide scale, a national scale, without like shoving it down people's throats, without them even knowing that they're benefiting from the use of Web3.
Yeah, I think perfect way to kick it off and segment right into it, because I think like, yeah, you look at Starbucks, you look at like some of Dunkin' Donuts and stuff like here in the States, right? And for me, like, I actually, when I was 15 years old, I worked at Starbucks. I was a black apron, so like, did the whole mastery challenge that they had back then. And but
Nice.
one of the things that like we know that really like was big for them was when they did gift cards, right? And then they became a bank, because once that happened, like, man, they were able to, yeah, like kick it to a different gear when that happened. And I'm just like, man, that's a Web3 thing that like, holy crap. Do we have like Soulflare, we have all these partners, and I'm just like, man, what kind of business out there exists that can partner up with like something, let's just use Soulflare, a wallet, something like that, that could offer even more perks to say, hey, use your app on chain activities here, just do all these things, your weekly, monthly order of 20 cans, 30 cans, your monthly order of your beans, whatever that is. And then all of a sudden, you're also not only racking in points, but you're also getting a yield for holding a percentage of your, let's just say, USDC, USDT balance. And it's like, man, this is where I think things get really crazy and nutty, because you could definitely take now a business even further because of what you're able to hold from foundation level from having these kind of different treasury assets.
100%. And I think you've perfectly described what we've been working on and trying to build, like, for the last, I mean, planning at least over a year now, but actively working on the last 6 months, and hopefully will be released this year, is that next generation of reward app for Raposa. And that's where I think, like, we could talk coffee details and why our cold brew is 10 times superior to our competitors, and our process and our, like, where we source the beans from. Like, I could go on and on. We have the longest shelf life in the industry. Like, I can go on and on about that and why we're going to win at that level. But I think that next step up is leveraging Web3 at a loyalty aspect, where, let's say you find Raposa in a store, or like you said, you're ordering online, subscribing and saving X amount of money. You're getting badges, you're getting points, you're getting, you're buying limited edition can drops that we do with a lot of our partners. You're getting limited edition pin for that, and like all of these things kind of are what we envision incorporating into this, like, mega reward app that we want to that we're aiming to create. Even from, like I said, from a distribution standpoint, you find Raposa on a shelf, scan the can, sign up for rewards, or if you already have one, automatically claim points, automatically, like, integrate that, and then it gives us data to see, like, okay, who's buying, because once you get past, like, the shelves of distribution, you don't really have that data, right? As a brand, when we sell online, we do. If we sell on Amazon, we don't. But if we have that incorporation and that flywheel, to a point where you can use these points, or if you have 10 of these badges, you get, a free 12-pack of coffee. You get qualified for whatever we have coming up in the future. So kind of using that Web3 technology to become the best specialty coffee company in the world. First, the US is our focus this year, but the world. And then number two, growing the Raposa community and the Solana ecosystem for that fact, to an entire different level. And I've always said this, that, like, the fact that we're still here from when we minted 2.5 years ago, and like, we still have such a long way to go, in my mind, of where our goals are, like, speaks volumes to, like, I think we're really one of the only Trojan horses of onboarding people into the Solana ecosystem without them knowing it, just through drinking coffee, just through picking up one of our cold brews. So that's our goal. Like, Solana for us is number one, and we want to see that ecosystem grow as much as possible. And in turn, the Raposa community grow as well, without doing another NFT launch or launching more, like, deliquifying the current collection,
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely solidified the first point of saying, like, you're a real brand. And then the second solidifying point was, like, your coffee's good, right? Because I can think, like, there's steps to get to where we are now for the on-chain experience, because if the coffee wasn't good, I don't think we would have on-chain. And second of it, if the brand wasn't, like, hocus pocus type thing, we would be like, okay, like, what was it after the NFT mint? But I think you've been able to build these different type of layers to get to this conversation of saying, okay, what does on-chain look like? What does loyalty points look like? How do we reward? How do we keep growing? And again, to the biggest question, like, to the biggest thing you said there is sure, you could say Trojan horse, but this is part of what crypto needs to figure out, is how to onboard others, right? And what is the best way to onboard others, especially with something that coffee's already correlated very easy. Everybody understands it, but everybody also understands what their gift card balance is in their Starbucks reward, their Dunkin' Donuts reward, and that they know they have to get the 300 points to get, $25 off, which 300 points could be you spending $1,000 at Starbucks. But people all understand that. And so you're able to have that same conversation with them and just be able to not even say, hey, it's blockchain, it's crypto, it's Solana, any of that stuff. That's all just kind of like in the background. And I think at the end of the day, tech has always been under the hood, right? It's like, you know, you're
100%,
like
100%. And like just
you're
bringing that on chain and like being able to, let's say it is like a limited, you know, we have a limited edition drop with a company I won't name yet, you know, upcoming, and there's a QR code on the can, and anyone who scans it gets this badge in our app, right? And then being able to leverage Web3 to sell, to trade, to like, you know, become a collector within the Raposa community at a digital level, where people are like, man, I can make some money from buying Raposa. And I think a really good example of that is what Rect has been doing with their sparkling drinks and whatnot. Do I think that model is sustainable long term? I'm a little skeptical. I don't know. Like, they have an actual token liquidity. Like, there has to be demand on the other side for that, where they're selling, you know, these limited edition drops. If you buy it, you automatically get tokens. So people are buying them to essentially try and make some money, you know, depending on the token price, right? But if we can do it in, I don't think humble is the right word, but like in an honest and like like true way, where people can, we can leverage Web3 to give back to our community of buyers, right? In a way that makes sense, where the flywheel makes sense, where we can still scale, and it's not like we're giving dividends out or rev sharing or anything like that. That was never a promise. We've always said we were never a rev share project from the day we minted, right? Like we were selling NFTs for this idea, for this vision, and you know, we're grateful to have done that and been transparent about it, because that's formed the foundation of our community of people who have been holding Raposa cups for 2.5 years now, and who have 0 listed and own 100. And, you know, we have some of the lowest listing count of a 10,000K collection to date, and one of the most active communities from a project that launched that long ago, right? So, you know, a little sidetrack there, but just to kind of bring it all together, I think that that's what these, like, our competitors in the real world are missing, and what we have as our foundation and what we can bring to the table. So when we go to these distributors, when we go to these supermarkets, and we explain where we came from, where now crypto is a lot more accepted, and you know, the general vibe of it is not as scammy as it used to be. Like when we launched in 2022, we wanted to make sure the brand and our website had nothing to do with crypto. It was very clear. And now I feel like we're finally at a point where we could kind of tell this whole story to the world and to outside of the Solana ecosystem in a way that will benefit us, benefit our community, and benefit distribution and sales. So I'm just extremely excited for this year.
Yeah, you know, it's even going further, right? Like, you know, when you start telling me about distribution, and I'm like, you know, one of the things I always like talk to a lot of game founders, a lot of people within the crypto space, you know, they're always trying to go outside of the Web3 space. And I always think like, cool, that is great. But man, there's a lot of people in the Web3 space that we still haven't hit. Like, have we hit every Web3 user, let's just say? And I start thinking about what you just said, and it's like, man, what if you were at Token 2049, Consensus, you know, Bitcoin, you know, NFTs, like all these kind of things outside of the Solana ecosystem. At the end of the day, it's still powered by Solana, so that's great. But at the end of the day, you're able to go hit to more native people that could help keep building the brand, keep building the community, that all have that common interest of like, hey, let's drink coffee. Cool. I get a discount. I get loyalty points, whatever that is. But I think the biggest thing would always come back to is, you know, when you are trying to get to this distribution is now you're competing with the big boys, right? Like, is it 15-pound bag of beans, a pound of $15 beans versus 18-pound of, like, whatever that price is, you know, that's definitely something like a lot out of the scope that could be controlled, because, you know, again, quantity and quality is all that stuff that comes down to that. But I think for you guys, like, man, there's such an opportunity still just to be told within the Web3 atmosphere, Web3 community goes even further.
100%. And to be fair, like we've been doing that the last 2 years. We've done probably close to a dozen events with Kraken that have been outside of Solana that were Bitcoin future blockchain futurist conference. We've done proof of talk in Paris twice. They called us back for. We're going to ETH Denver with Kraken in February. Consensus with Solana, but still consensus in Hong Kong in February. Again, we talked about Miami before we started this, but we could dive into that. Like we've been doing that, and I think like all of these in-person events over the last 2 years has really given us that proof of concept. Well, not only proof of concept, but what you were mentioning, like the expansion outside of just the Solana ecosystem. We do want to be the best coffee in Web3, but obviously our end goal is to be the best coffee brand in Web2. And so what the in-person events have done for us is give us live, tangible feedback from users, consumers, right? Taste testers, where we know our product's good. We've gotten feedback on our can design labels and our website and all of this stuff that people like huge companies pay whatever amounts of money to either get that marketing exposure, survey groups, research and development, you name it, right? And we've been able to go around to these conferences as a vendor, getting paid to be there, making money and earning invaluable feedback on our product and innovate to a point where, like you said, now when you're talking about whole roasted coffee beans, like it, especially even like forget Starbucks and Tim Hortons, but like the hundreds and thousands of specialty coffee roasters just in the United States, right? Who roast amazing coffee. And it all depends on sourcing and, do they have their own farm? They can beat us on price, I'm sure, in that regard for specialty coffee. But what they don't have and what we're focusing like very, very hard on this year is our Nitro Cold Brew product line, because we do have such a market advantage and premium compared to other ready to drink coffees, which I'm happy to dive into. But we could get super technical. We use a globally patented nitro brewing method, and we use real specialty coffee in our cans, where most canned coffee you have no idea what they're using. So like we're leveraging the Nitro Cold Brews to get in distribution and supermarkets and big box stores, and then hopefully funnel the coffee in there after, like the whole roasted beans. But right now that's not really our focus.
Yeah, but it seems like you guys have a awesome, research and development to like finding out that, like you mentioned, this kind of new technology to Nitro Cold Brew being in a can. You mentioned earlier as well, and you mentioned it before, of like having the longest shelf life. It seems like you guys are definitely like going down that route as well, of like, hey, what is that competitive edge? How do you become competitive within knowing the big boys of what they're doing? Let me ask you, like, how is that how is that mindset, or how is that, like, as a founder, like, research and development is also a huge chunk of cash that is being burnt sometimes, that, hey, you might try a flavor and we might put all this up and the flavor might not be worth it. The flavor might not be able to go in a can and it has a shelf life a lot less than other cans because of the flavor. Like, man, those are things that people don't talk about a lot, because, it's just some of the things that people are like, yeah, put the coffee in the cup and that's it, give it to me. And I'm like,
it happens in the background. Yeah. No, it's tough, but we kind of set up these partnerships even before we set out to launch our mint, to launch the brand, to launch the project. I'm the kind of person who, I am a workaholic, but I pride, like I take my time very seriously. So like if I knew that we wouldn't have some sort of competitive advantage outside of Web3, outside of the Solana ecosystem, we wouldn't have started Raposa. So like having those partnerships locked down in the beginning, where we have our manufacturer who does the brewing and the canning for us of our coffee, of our flavors, and obviously, like you said, the R&D can be, you know, expensive and strenuous and whatnot. You know, we've been lucky enough where we kind of set ourselves up for success from the beginning. So it's taken some time, right, organically to get to the point where we're at. And like I mentioned just before, that feedback that we get in person at all of these in-person events is so invaluable. Like right now, we're reimagining our can labels, because every event outside of Solana, we've had at least 1, 2, maybe 5 people come up to us. And the Solana Wall Street pop-up was a good example. We had a lot of normal people coming off the street, a lot of tourists who were in New York, coming to try Raposa for the first time, loving it. But they'd look at the menu, we'd have the lineup of the cold brews, and they'll like point and they'll go, I want a Nitro. And they think that the brand name is Nitro, even though like Raposa is, you know, on the can. And so we're like, okay, this has happened a lot. We should reimagine our can designs where we're not losing the brand, because I love the can design. Everybody loves the can designs. We're not losing the colors, but the brand name needs to be prominent. The flavor needs to be smaller on the bottom. The focus needs to be on our call outs made with 100% specialty coffee beans, vegan, because our lattes are made with oat milk. So we're almost done with that process. And like, those are the little things that people don't see behind the scenes, where once they're on the shelves, it gets us that much better of a sell-through rate. And eventually people are joining our, you know, our loyalty app that we're planning, joining the Solana ecosystem. So, and revamping our website. We just did that. We've been spending the last month working on SEO for that. And like, you know, it's just been a lot of work behind the scenes of kind of preparing to break out. This is year 3 for us, you know, technically. So, you know, year 3 of a startup, big year. And, you know, we're ready to take the risks that we need to take to get to that next level. So yeah, just small things like that.
Yeah, dude. And it's funny, man, like you're talking about like the can and everything, because I think like some great case studies out there exist, like Liquid Death being one of them that comes to mind. And their latest advertising. I don't know if you saw like the latest advertising of like the small one and the big one. It's like a killer advertising. But you know, it's funny because, you know, Liquid Death, like everybody was like, what is this? And it's just water, right? It's water in a bottle. And then boxed water was another one. And it's like all these things, but like people, again, like you said, it's like, hey, how are you interpreting this? And why is it that you're interpreting? Is it because the everyday bottled water is just typically see-through and it's just like, you know, the way that it's formed and all that stuff? But same thing with coffee, right? Like you look at like the Starbucks cold brews, you look at like some of the stuff that's on the shelf and it's like, okay, cool. Starbucks logo big. What does it say? Cold brew, same thing. And it's like, it's easily well identified. And at the end of the day, sometimes, you know, when you're looking at convenience stores and all that stuff, people are in a rush, right? You're in and out. You just want to grab the coffee, whatever's there, just give it to me. I'll take it. You know, I'm on the road, get me to point B, point A. I need the caffeine, and caffeine is what they search for. So I think it's like pretty cool that you got to talk a little bit about that, because I think that there's a lot to learn from in real life. And I think crypto is one part that they do hurt from is not getting enough of the user feedback sometimes that can help 100%. Products. Because crypto is very extractive, right? Like crypto has a lot of extractive in it. And a lot of times when people are trying products in crypto, it's just because of the money, right? They're not giving the true honest feedback. And what you've been able to say and do is like, hey, there's nothing extractive of this. Just try the damn coffee. Tell me yes or no. Tell me what you didn't like. So I think it gives you guys that extra lever, like that you were mentioning, to have the competitive edge in the space. Mentioned a little bit about, you know, the future. You last time in Breakpoint, you guys rolled out the matcha booth that was a huge hit for you guys. What's one thing that you've learned from that? Like, are you looking at matcha? Are you looking at like teas now? Are you looking at other caffeine ways to look at caffeine other than Raposa coffee, Nitro Blue, anything else? Like, how does that come from Breakpoint?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a very good question, and this has been something that we've been working on since before Breakpoint. We've been doing matcha at our booth, for over a year now. No, any pop up, any conference, but Breakpoint was the first time we had a dedicated like matcha XYZ was our sponsor for that, so it just made sense. Like, let's have our just a matcha booth. We'll have some really good like signature drinks, and we're lucky enough to have one of our like high up marketing advisors has her own matcha company. She's half Japanese. Her grandmother was a Japanese tea ceremonialist, and she was one of the first people to bring matcha, like have a matcha brand in the U.S. So we've been working together with her to create an actual Raposa matcha. So you'll see here, hopefully within the next quarter, some alpha that will have tins of Raposa ceremonial grade matcha that is the highest quality in the world. We'll have larger bags, larger formats, like the equivalent of like, a kilo or a couple pounds of coffee, something that'll last you a month, something that'll last you a week if you drink matcha every day. And then continuing to incorporate that in all of our in-person activations. We already do have 2 Nitro Cold Brew teas, which were our 2 last releases, and those have arguably outperformed our coffees because, one, something we learned from events, people always come up if it's late in the day or someone who's caffeine sensitive, they ask for decaf. And we don't do decaf. Like, Raposa will never do decaf. This is you could clip it, you could stamp it. Raposa will never do decaf. Why? Because decaf coffee is essentially 99% roasted of any bean. So the longer you roast the coffee, the more caffeine is extracted. So it's like dark, and the quality is just horrible. So we're like, okay, let's come up with something that's caffeine free, but tastes good and is in line with our brand. We can use the same globally patented nitro cold brewing method, but instead of our roasted coffee beans, let's get premium grade hibiscus tea leaves from Senegal. And so we launched our hibiscus iced tea that's caffeine free with a hint of natural strawberry flavor. It's basically, you mentioned Starbucks a few times. We call it the Starbucks refresher without the BS. Very minimal ingredients, low sugar, and people absolutely go crazy with it. If you're a drinker, it's a great mixer, good chaser, that kind of thing. And because that did so well, we then released our peach iced tea, which has done even better. And that has caffeine. It's minimal. We use Ceylon tea, premium Ceylon tea. Also the same cold brew method. And it actually creates, because of the tea and the peach flavor, and it creates this kind of like sparkling effect where it's like a sparkling peach iced tea, and it's very unique. It's very different. People love it. So yeah, we have been exploring outside of coffee, and we will continue to do so.
So is there a martini espresso in the horizon, and working with all these crypto after parties that, tonic and coffee have become like a huge thing, and it's like, whoa, okay, like, what's that world look like?
Yeah, we have the espresso cold brew tonic flavor already. We say on our product description, great, life of the party, great as a mixer, etc. We branded the can to like feel like a party. There's like a fox in a martini glass, that's like the kind of the makeshift espresso martini, if you will, right? But we've done events. We've already done like after parties. We did one of I think our second or third event, we did the D God's house at Art Basel, where we had a booth, coffee booth running all day into the night. And at 5 o'clock, we switched from the coffee menu to just fresh espresso martinis. So, and anybody who was there and who have tasted our espresso martinis, we also did it at the Solana Summer House with Solana Spaces in September. Know that they are some of the best ever. So, having that freshly pulled espresso and making that fresh martini with it, shaking it extremely well, is something that we offer, but it's not always possible due to whether liquor's allowed or, depends on the venue,
Yeah. Man, it's funny you say all these things, and one of the things talking about on chain and all this stuff, like I started thinking back of all the events that I've been to and all the after parties, and I think man, back to the competitive edge here with on chain. You're talking about everybody drinking, everyone at these events are drinking, but if you think about it, a lot of these people that are walking in and through the events are signing up through IllumiLink, but don't really, other than the LumaLink, don't have any other way, or the vendor themselves or the person that's hosting the space doesn't have a really way to connect, to say, hey, you came through my party, my event. But if they partnered up with Raposa, there is ways to say, hey, they were here at the Kraken event, here's the badge, here's the whatever you want to do. And I think man, these are the type of things that, again, we get back to the competitive edge of in real life products with in real life events equals how do you retain them, right? How do you keep them wanting to learn more about what else they could offer? I think these are the marriages that are just ready to be formed, and I think it's really, really cool. All right, man, I know Miami's around the corner. I know you got Hong Kong around the corner. What's the next 6 months look like in the roaster house? Anything else that you want to give us that man, we should definitely take a look at? Is merchandise maybe around the corner, man? When are we gonna get some mugs, or some iced coffee stuff?
We've been doing merch. We've been on and off with it. We did a season 1 drop. We did a season 2 drop. We did some pre-sales of these incredible jackets at the last few events of 2025. And I'll start kind of backwards from your questions, but we're going to be doing a pre-sale of at least one of those jackets at a discount for our holders within the next week. It's sick. I wish I had it here with me, but it's red.
I remember
I think
you had it on,
might have seen it.
and I forgot where you were, and I chased you down, and I was like, hey, man, that jacket is so sick. I was like, how do I get one? And you were telling me about it. So I definitely know that is quality.
Yeah, we keep getting asked. We do incredible quality merch. We want to do mugs, but we want to do them in a good way. We have I'm blanking on the name, but somebody who makes ceramic mugs, pottery specialist in the Raposa community. And, again, being able to lift our community, give them opportunities to help grow Raposa or give them business. So that's something we're looking into. Extremely high quality handmade ceramic Raposa mugs. We've got to-go mugs. We're gonna get those restocked soon. And then you mentioned Miami. They announced that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, it's funny because dude, the Starbucks Discovery ones, it's funny you're talking about them, but these Discovery ones, everywhere I go, every city that I go to, I always get one. It's just one of those things. And my daughter will always be like, hey, Dad, did you get this one? Hey, cool. And I think, man, there goes back to what you just mentioned about on-chain and hey, man, what if every single breakpoint that I got one of the mugs that was designed for it. And man, these are the really cool things that gets exciting about Web3. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no. It's such a good point, and it's something that we have been trying to do whether it's a physical like product, like a mug, which I think is a fantastic idea. You know, who cares if Starbucks thinks we're copying them or not? But like, we'll do it 10 times better, I'm sure.
Everybody copies anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, right. And then a digital aspect, right, where you could like come up to the booth, you know, scan something and claim a badge that you were there, like a POAP, you know, what POAPs used to be. But all through our own reward app where we can track the data. You know, let's say, you know, this person was at every event that we did in 2026, you know, and claimed every badge. And you know, at the end of the year, we do a giveaway for a free coffee for the entire next year to one of those people who came to every single event, right? Like those are the on-chain experiences that we're able to do with that tech. As far as like physical products, I think we've been a little bit like hands tied behind our back for a few different reasons, whether it's like how small the team we have, production timing, and or financially, if we're like putting in, you know, everything we do, we haven't raised since the NFT mint, right? And so any profits that we get, we basically scale back into production to make more cans, make more coffee, and get larger distribution. So figuring out a good mix of like, okay, what percentage of that should go to merchandising, because merch doesn't expire, which is great. But like having those limited edition items at you know, at events, from a financial perspective is a little bit of a gamble, right? Because you don't know how many people are going to end up buying them, and then it's limited to that event, and then then so on and so forth. But you know, but it is something we want to do, like limited edition runs of stuff like that for in person, and then the digital aspect of that side as well, right? So I think you're spot on, and then just going backwards even more. For you mentioned Hong Kong consensus, we got Miami consensus coming up, and Solana's doing their accelerate. Both of those will be there, each of them with 2 booths, sponsored by Soulflare. Excited to work with them again. They're incredible partners, amazing wallet. Like I personally I love their wallet. Amazing team, so nice to work with. And, you know, being there, being present. And I think Solana is doing a really smart thing of having their accelerates at and around consensus, because it'll bring in that new demographic into Solana that we might not have seen before had they done accelerate at a different time of the year in a different location. So I think the events team is, first of all, the best events team ever, by far. Love them to death, and extremely intelligent, that how they're planning this year. And they did it a lot last year too. So I want to give them kudos for that. But this year specifically, having their accelerate events around other large events, whether it's token, consensus, etc., to get people who are outside of the Solana ecosystem to come for the day, experience Solana, see what we're all about, see how awesome the events are, try Raposa coffee, right? And, you know, just kind of go from there. And not just Solana, but, you know, we have multiple other events coming up in the next 6 months, you know, first 6 months of the year. I mentioned going to ETH Denver with Kraken right after Hong Kong, which should be a lot of fun. And then I don't think I could talk about, there's an event in March that I can't talk about yet. We're trying to do something on our own for the full month of March, which until it's like fully confirmed, I won't talk about yet. Sorry to be teasing. Just, you know, little I don't want to jinx it, you know, until it's all locked in. So
just make sure people have the notifications on. That's it right there. Just have your notifications on, because March might have something really spicy.
Yeah. And then the second half of 2026, excuse me, I think will be the spiciest 6 months in Raposa's history. So definitely have noties on for that, because we are making some major moves, TBD, but that will completely change everything and kind of put Raposa on an entirely different pedestal.
Dude, you have me at the edge of my seat, so I'm excited. I'm excited to keep deep diving into these things, and it's awesome to always talk to you. I think like listening to the way you started to where you are, the success you guys have had. I think like there's very few teams that I mean I talked to almost so many founders across it that there's very few times that you like you really get to know somebody and you get to really hear that experience and that journey, and you're just like, man, that's like you get excited, but at the same time like you're rooting for the same team, because at the end of the day we're all building here on Solana. And I think it's like really cool to see the wins, and it's like encourages others to say, okay, like don't give up, like there's the opportunity still coming, like we're still so early. I know it's such a cliche saying, but it really is. Like, who would have thought this year, like the president of the United States talking about crypto every single day? Like we would have never thought that a couple years ago. Like, man, like it's getting so much easier. Like you said, it's getting easier to be able to talk crypto, blockchain, Web3. All these conversations are getting easier. Adoption is getting easier. So it's really, really a great road ahead. Man,
yeah,
I appreciate you taking 45 minutes of your time, coming on, talk to us a little bit about Raposa. We're going to have our notifications on. I am going to make sure I figure out how to get a red jacket, because I think that jacket is pretty badass. And when you do come up with the mugs, or for the guys that are iced coffee drinkers, make sure you get the Ice Traveler ones. I am the
100%.
number one guy to sign up for those. But Sak, man, I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks again for coming on. And what's the plug? How do we make sure we have our notifications on for you?
Yeah, well, Raposa Coffee Co., you have it here, is our brand account. My personal is at Dirty Sock, SOK. And I get in trouble for leaking alpha on there. So definitely, drop a follow, turn on the noties. And then probably where we leak the most alpha is actually in our Discord VC, which I think we arguably have, for a project that launched so long ago, one of the most active like holder VCs, just full of collectors and people who like ripping cards and
What if somebody wanted to get a NFT now? Is there a way for them to still get involved? Maybe you want to give us a quick like run through Magic Eden. What do we do?
100%. The easiest way, I always just say Magic Eden. Love their team there. We've worked with them a bunch. Just search Cups with a K, or search Raposa. It'll show up. The collection is called Cups by Raposa. Little foxes. They're incredibly cute. You can pop into our Discord. We have a non-holder chat if you have any questions first. Our Discord is discord.gg/Raposa, I believe. It's in our links and on X and everything, and on the Magic Eden product page, or marketplace page, I should say. And then we have staking, where you earn SPL token called beans. Those beans can level up your cups to different tiers. Those tiers get you different levels of discounts on our online store. So if you are a coffee lover, you want to get involved, or you believe in the vision of what we're doing, I think now is a better time than any, with the current NFT market, how it's looking, to just say, hey, let me just grab one, right? It's like 20, I think they're like around $20-$30 right now. But again, like we have an extremely low listing count, and from like that price to this price is there's not that many. So, not financial advice. We just want people who like coffee. We have a big community that loves trading cards, Pokemon, One Piece, you name it. Loves gaming. So, if you like any of these things, just grab a cup, come into the holders chat, or if you have any questions before you get one, come into the Discord, come into the non-holders chat. We're always there to answer questions and kind of help people walk through if they're looking for rare cups or like what are the hot ones, what are the best skins, that kind of thing. So yeah.
I love it. I love it, man. Yeah, not financial advice, but when there's fear in the streets or there's blood in the streets, it's the best time to buy. And well, guess what? I think we're all seeing that now. So take your profits
100%.
from gold or silver and rotate profits.
Rotate to cups, baby.
But Zach, man, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate the time. I appreciate what you guys are building, and excited to see you in Miami in about 2 or 3 months now. I won't make it out to Hong Kong, but I'll definitely do Miami since it's my backyard. So, Zach, appreciate you coming on, man. Take care. Talk soon.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.